Proposition 157. The fact we have mass-energy cohesion to localize space-time, our web of relative overlapping gravity wells, our largest measurable segment of space-time, when applied against eternal time and infinite space, makes it statistically impossible for there not to be an infinite amount of mass, an infinite amount of energy. It becomes impossible, if space is infinite, to have mass here, but not everywhere. Proposition 158. Eternal time and infinite space begets an infinite number of separate planets, moons, and even asteroids, an infinite number of black holes, galaxies, stars, nebulas, cosmic jets, and other nested co-moving frames of reference with habitable planets at our scale factor across the vastness of an infinite universe, one that basic logic concludes must exist. Proposition 159. We know that gravity and magnetism are scale invariant and scale independent, and when we apply the field equations of general relativity against eternal time and infinite space, then instead of falsely envisioning any eternally inflating bubbles, except we are instead just one rung inside a nested succession of larger and larger co-moving frames of reference. Proposition 160. We shed our last shreds of our Earth-centricity when we accept that not only is our planet and galaxy nothing special, but neither is our local visible universe. All we can ever see or ever measure is little more than a single point in time and point in space. A speck of cosmic dust inside an infinite sea of cosmic dusts. What is relative to us is insignificant to the entire whole. Proposition 161. Most educated people able to grasp the number of galaxies and star systems within 100 billion light years of us take it for granted that even though we have yet to find proof of life, there is almost certainly an abundance of life out there to be found. Proposition 162. When we see life evolving at the deepest depths of the oceans or feeding off sulfuric acid, living deep underground near thermal vents, and we wonder at the veracity of the tardigrade to survive, there is an almost certainty of life existing elsewhere within our finite little visible patch of space-time. If space is infinite, and there are an infinite number of celestial bodies, then it becomes statistically impossible for there not to be an infinite number of big wet rocks hosting multiple life forms. Thus, an infinite number with intelligent life capable of not just space travel, but empathy and compassion towards all living creatures. Proposition 163. When we accept eternal time and infinite space, then we must also accept infinite mass and infinite energy. It becomes statistically impossible for there to be mass and energy localized only within a single region of eternally infinite space-time, and must therefore exist in all directions, going on forever. Any concept of a finite boundary or edge introduces irreconcilable paradoxes. Proposition 164. Any other explanation for existence other than an eternally evolving universe invokes paradoxes and inconsistencies. So considering any other potential reality is what we should be labeling as speculation until there is proof that time is not eternal or space is not infinite. Proposition 165. Our entire visible universe truly is a point in time and a point in space. A point hurling through space and time, likely rotating and possibly in orbit, being orbited, or both. Relativity dictates what that point is relative to, and within that point, what is relative to it. Proposition 166. T0, as in the field equations, space-time indices, is far different than T0 as it relates to our Big Bang's timeline. As it relates to the latter, the concept of T0 is to current cosmology what fool's gold is to prospecting. The idea there could be a first moment in time, blind to what relativity tells us about time, is not far off from thinking we live on a flat disk or that the sun revolves around the earth. Proposition 167. To grasp reality, one need only accept a few simple ideas, accept the field equations of the general theory of relativity as mostly accurate, applied alongside the formulas that come out of the special theory of relativity, like time dilation and space contraction, and apply them against the fabric of eternally infinite 4D Minkowski spacetime, and a single clear picture materializes. Proposition 168. It is statistically impossible for an infinite number of planets to only have a single big wet rock with life on it. And instead, when we have an infinite number of planets, it becomes statistically impossible for there not to be an infinite number of habitable planets. Proposition 169. These two contradictory statements can both be true. There are a finite number of different habitable planets. There are an infinite number of different habitable planets. That is because there are a finite number of unique combinations of elements that can support life. Too large and we get a star or brown dwarf. These finite number of different combinations of elements exist through an infinite number of separate iterations across space-time. Thus, both statements are technically true. Proposition 170. From the very first instant of our Big Bang to this exact moment right now, there has been a specific sequence of quantum states in succession. The number is incredibly, unfathomably huge, yet still finite. Proposition 171. Taking into account other life forms that may not be carbon-based and grasping the true magnitude of some of the genomes we already know about, it might appear that there are an infinite number of possible life forms. However huge that number may be, it is still going to be a finite number of different ways you can combine elements to make something even remotely similar to DNA or RNA. Proposition 172. Therefore, there are a finite number of unique planets, moons, asteroids, and potentially even brown dwarfs with a finite number of unique life forms on them, going through an almost infinite number of different iterations for all eternity. That is the only paradox-free explanation for existence that is logically coherent with all existing observations. I added almost after giving this some thought, and if the number of parameters are finite, then the number of outcomes, no matter how large, must also be finite.